How to Trade Forex, Lecture 19. This is the second part of our news trading input, and in it we're going to look at the effects of news and also the techniques for trading it. So we'll also look at a live example of news trading. So we're looking at the effects of news. And quite frequently, as on this occasion, we get more than one news item announced at the same time. And, of course, they can be conflicting. So one may be good news from the economy and one may be bad news from the economy. And that's what actually happened here. First of all, we had worse than expected figures on unemployment claims, and in respect of an announcement of interest rates, we had no change, even though there had been rumours and therefore a forecast of a change upward in the interest rate. So those two effects combined together to give a very big spike, and there it is. But you'll see that although there was a very big spike, it reversed, and it reversed very quickly. This is actually a 1 minute chart we're looking at. So we can see that there had been a big move, but it was immediately reversed within the same 1 minute candlestick. That's how quickly we try to take account of news. Here's some more news. It was Thursday the 19th of May, not this year, a year or two earlier, and the forecast retail sales figure was a month-on-month increase of 0.9%, but the actual figure was an increase of 1.1%. And this is again in the UK, and we're looking at a 1 minute chart, and we can see with the blue arrow pointing to it that good news did bring a large spike, a significant spike, which was again reversed very, very quickly. So again, it's a spike that we could have watched and waited for, seen it, and if we were very, very quick, took advantage of it to actually put a sell trade in as the spike was reversed. So here we can see that we've got a reversal on this one. The spike is not quite in line with the first blue arrow, but there has been a big spike, and it didn't reverse in the first minute. This is a 1 minute chart, and we can see that it probably took about 20 minutes to actually get back to where it's coming from. This was an unscheduled news announcement. It was actually the announcement of the death of Osama bin Laden. And we can see that this particular news item brought the strength to the dollar, weakness to the pound, changed the relative positions, and it didn't reverse. So it actually stayed down there, which is quite surprising because I can't really imagine that the death of Osama bin Laden would make that much difference to the actual economy of the USA. Talking about news trading, and at the moment we're looking at the one-day chart for the pound dollar at 1:15 p.m. on Thursday the 28th of August 2014. We can see that the day so far has been one in which the price opened and went up. It went through a barrier at 166, being a whole number, didn't get as far as the 50 pips trigger point in going up, then came back down and has in fact been below the opening price of the day. So we're looking at three sets of data coming out today from the US. One is the preliminary gross domestic product quarter on quarter, so that's basically the rate of growth. And we see that last quarter it was 4%. This quarter the forecast is 3.9, and we don't know the actual for another 10 minutes or so yet. However, what we do know is that if that quarter-on-quarter growth is larger, bigger than 3.9, stronger than 3.9, they would expect that to be good news for the US and for the dollar, and therefore for the dollar to gain strength against the pound. At exactly the same time, 1:30 where I am, 9:30 a.m. in the morning in New York, we've got unemployment claims coming out, and these are weekly figures. So the previous figure was 298,000 people added to the unemployment claims portfolio. They're expecting 299,000 this week, and we'll see what the actual is. Again, if it is a lower figure than we're looking at here, 299,000, then that would be good for the dollar. As with any of these, we can go to the detail area I just move my mouse over it and it comes up Open Detail. If I left click on that, we get some more information. So we get previous figures going back a while longer, and we also get who it comes from, in this case the Department of Labour, so these are government figures. And we also get the fact that it's released weekly after the weekend, and we get a bit of a definition of what it is. And it's seen as the nation's earliest economic data. The market impact fluctuates from week to week. There tends to be more focus on the release when traders need to diagnose recent events or when its bidding is at extremes. And we're not in that situation at the moment. So just get rid of that by clicking on the arrow again with the left mouse click. And I'm going to now pause the video until 1:30, and at that point we'll see what happens as the news comes out, so what it is, and what the effects on the market, if any, are. We'll best see those effects if we're on a 1 minute chart, so I'll put that into play now and pause. So at about 3 minutes ago, if we go back now to Forex Factory and refresh the page, we should find that we get ready to receive the information, and we have. You can see now we've got the two green circles in place. So the best thing to do, we've got to make a decision here, is we either watch this screen and see the data come in, or we watch the screen and see what the effects are, and then quickly take a glance back and see what actually happened with the data. And I think we'll go for the second of those two options. And here we are now within a minute of the data coming out. We can see there's some pre-trading, some pre-thinking about what the results might be, some expectations taking effect, and it's actually driving the price of this pair down, and quite significantly. We can now go to the 5 minute chart, and that significance is seen. So we are only at where we've been earlier in the morning, so there's nothing too dramatic at this stage. And now we're getting a bit of a reversal on it anyway. I'm just going to check back to the Forex Factory screen, refresh it again and see if the data is out yet. Now we can also go to the circle itself and left click on it. It makes both of them refresh at the same time. And no, so according to my clock it is now exactly 1:30, so we'll try it again. And there we have it. So the growth has been stronger than anticipated, and unemployment has been slightly less than anticipated. So they're both good news items for the dollar. So we can see that a downward movement here is in fact a strengthening of the dollar. So that was anticipated, it was coming in, and sure enough we've got a downward movement on news. However, it still only went back to the opening point of the day. It hasn't been very dramatic at all. I go back to the 1 minute chart, and we can see that we have a couple of relatively large candles and spikes involved, but nothing too exciting at this stage. But the interesting thing to note is, one, that it still complied with the Bollinger Bands, so it's still not happy to go below that bottom Bollinger Band, and two, the downward move was bound by a pivot point. And in this instance, the pivot point was the day's opening price. So what we'll do now is pause the tape for a few minutes, probably about 5 minutes, and see what happens next. So we're a couple of minutes on, and there's still no great effects. We haven't managed to breach that day's opening price, and I've got to actually go back through some of these timescales to get this into perspective. Got the 5 minute chart, we still can't see our purple trigger point for a buy trade. We go on to the next one, we can't see it. We go on to the 30 minutes, we can't see it. We go on to the hour, we can't see it. We go on to the 4 hour, we can't even see it there. We've actually got to go to the full day chart to see where the minus 50 trigger point is, and we're nowhere near it at this stage. And because we're only interested in making a buy trade, that being because we're in this green zone, then we're unlikely to get a trade from this news item. What we would have liked to have seen was some news that was actually going to take us down below that 50 trigger point. At that point we could have put a trade in position, a buy trade, and looked at the recovery back towards the opening price of the day, or 166, to actually get out and take some profit. So the time is now 1:35, a couple of minutes on again, and we can see what's happened. So the original news announcement brought 3 minutes, and we're on the 1 minute chart, of downward movement, bounded by this opening price level for the day, which has acted as support, bounced off support and went back up, and there's a little bit of rethinking going on now. I'll pause the tape just for a few more minutes, and we'll see what's happened in the sort of 5 to 10 minutes after the news announcement. By then, really, in most cases, the effect of the news is over. So we're now 10 or 12 minutes into it, and we can see really the effect has been fairly minor. If I use the crosshair facility that we showed you earlier, you can see the maximum of the movement here has been 16.0 or so pips. So not a big effect as news goes. And even if we'd been in the middle area where we could have done a buy or a sell, or in the upper area where we could have done a sell, it's unlikely we would have got a trade.